and my face. The goal is to keep my head down, like so. Welcome to Hogwarts. Actual nostrils. What are we doing down here? Who cares? That was really bad. Okay guys, so jumping straight into the tutorial, we are first starting out with our eyebrows having been blocked out. I am picking up a flat brush and some gray eyeshadow, and I'm sketching out the center of our new owl face, and then I'm going ahead and sketching out with a white pencil eyeliner where we want our eyeballs to be. So I know that the last tutorial that I put up, I did say that I was going to have to revisit painting eyes. I did not know that it was going to come so soon. That's what she said. Moving into our eyeballs, I first started by putting down like a mustardy yellow. I believe the color name is actually Dijon. So this is from the Mayron Paradise paints, and I do love these a whole heck of a lot. Anytime you're doing fur, feathers, anything with like a lot of dimension to it, the key to getting that same texture is to go in with several layers. And you'll notice that throughout this, I go back and forth between different layers with that white, the light gray, the dark gray, and then back in with more white. All right, we are gonna go ahead and paint in our new pupils. And for this, I'm just using a standard black paint. I will say that in the future, if I ever have to paint eyes again, I'm gonna save the eyeballs for the very last thing that I do. Because I painted the eye so early, I ended up having to touch it up several times throughout the tutorial. So I wanted to make sure that I got it down before moving on to the rest of the paint, because this is the portion that I was the most nervous about. I'm going to add a little bit more dimension to the eyes, first starting with the iris. So we did place down that mustardy yellow color. I'm deepening that with a hint of an orange shadow, and then popping a brighter yellow into the iris in certain places as well. We want these eyes to pop, and so they can't be one flat color. And then to make the pupil portion pop, say that 5 times fast, we're taking my favorite white liquid liner. This one is from Morphe, and we are adding a little bit of like what I can only really describe as like a reflection of light into the actual pupil itself. I'm also going to run a little bit of that white liquid liner into the iris as well. And I do think that this like really made that eye area pop. So I'm really pleased with the way that this turned out. Moving on to the chest, off camera, I did follow a reference photo and kind of sketched out in black eyeliner where I wanted my Hogwarts castle sitting on top of like the hill looking over into the lake. So I did start with a really light blue, followed by a deeper blue, and followed by purple in the outskirts of that night sky. Basically, you just super saturate your brush, you go in with a bunch of crazy strokes, and similar to how we did feathers and how we did fur in past tutorials, you're just going to add a bunch of layers until it creates this beautiful like multi-dimensional night sky. Following that, I filled in all of our silhouette with a black paint, and then we moved on to clouds, which are some of my favorite things to paint, by the way. So I picked up a rounded brush. It's a packing brush. I super saturated the bristles with some white paint, and then you notice that I go in with like a stippling motion, and I just kind of like stamp out the general shape of like a cumulonimbus. That's a fun word to say. Basically, as my brush loses product, I start to drag it out towards like the edges so it looks like my clouds naturally taper into nothing. To add a little bit more dimension to those clouds, I am following up with a little bit of a light blue eyeshadow, followed by a deeper blue, and then finally a purple. And then because I didn't want it to have lost its brightness and I still wanted it to pop, I took a detail brush and super saturated that with a hint more of that white paint, and I hit just the peaks of each of those clouds. So this is really going to help them stand out a little bit more. That way they're like tied into the background, but they don't melt into the background, if that makes any sense. And just as we added a highlight and a shadow to those clouds, we need to do the same thing to our Hogwarts castle. I hit all of the areas in the Hogwarts castle that would be illuminated by that night sky, going in with a gray paint, adding a couple of brush strokes, and then either using a more dry brush or my finger to kind of tap out that color so that the fade into that black was more of a fade and less of like a stark difference. And then because I didn't want to blue out my entire chest, I followed the outskirts of the mural that we've painted here with a tan paint and filled in my shoulders. And then I followed up with a black eyeliner to really define those edges. I also used a black paint to sketch out what can only be described as torn parchment or parchment curls, because I wanted it to kind of look like this mural was sitting underneath the Marauders map that had like ripped open. As we do with all of our looks, we need to make sure that we add the proper bit of shadows and highlights to those ripped torn paper edges. And so I go in with a warm eyeshadow and then I follow up with that same Morphe liquid white liner just to pop a little bit of detail. I also took a black paint and added some footprints because I wanted this to be the Marauders map. Other than that, the only other thing that I did off camera was add black to my hairline. I blacked out my ears, and then I added this little cardstock Hogwarts letter and I glued that to my mustache region. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I really enjoyed making it for you. That being said, I am so excited to go take a shower and go to bed. Don't forget to subscribe if you guys want to be notified when the next video goes live. That will be Friday at 10 a.m. and that is the last of our Harry Potter series. But then we're going back to a little bit of beauty makeup, so you don't want to miss that. Again, thank you guys so much for checking out this video. I feel ridiculous right now. Mischief managed. Okay, so super sexy. We're gonna jump into it today, and who knows what it's gonna look like. Was that better? No, that was a bad joke.